Walk into certain motorcycle dealerships today, and you might notice something strange. A few Trike motorcycles are still sitting exactly where they were months ago. The prices have been lowered, sometimes dramatically, yet they still refuse to sell. Why is that happening? Are these trikes misunderstood, overpriced, or simply victims of changing rider tastes? In this video, we uncover 14 Trike motorcycles dealers are struggling to move, even after serious price cuts. Some of these machines might surprise you, and a few could make you question what really makes a Trike successful. Make sure you stay to the very end, because the last Trike on this list might completely change how you see these massive discounts. Number 14. Reaco R F1GT. Across certain American dealerships, a few machines sit quietly in the corner of the showroom, admired, but rarely chosen. They attract curious glances from riders who appreciate engineering and performance. Yet something about them keeps buyers from reaching for the paperwork. Part of the hesitation comes from familiarity. Many riders grew up on big V-twin cruisers, machines that rumble at idle and stretch comfortably across long highways. When a Trike arrives with a very different personality, even strong performance numbers sometimes fail to close the deal. The RF1GT was designed with an entirely different philosophy than traditional American touring trikes. Its layout leans closer to automotive handling than motorcycle heritage. The steering feels planted and controlled. The suspension isolates bumps with surprising smoothness. And the cockpit places the rider low between wide front wheels. Riders who appreciate modern engineering often respect what it does well. Still, for many long-distance cruisers, the experience feels unfamiliar. The machine handles with precision, but it does not deliver the same emotional connection riders expect from machines shaped by decades of cruiser culture. That gap between engineering and tradition explains why some dealerships see the GT drawing interest without closing many sales. Riders examine the craftsmanship, study the bodywork, and talk about the unusual drivetrain before eventually walking back toward machines that feel more familiar. Power comes from a BMW inline 4, producing about 160 horsepower from 2,000 cubic centimeters and roughly 130 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, independent double wishbone suspension, about 1,100 pounds dry weight. A different European interpretation of the same platform soon appeared, attempting to bring more touring comfort into the equation. Number 13. Reaco R F1LT2. A quiet corner of many showrooms holds machines that look ready for the open highway, but rarely leave the floor. Riders circle them slowly, studying the lines and the wide stance before drifting towards something more familiar. Hesitation says a lot about how deeply tradition shapes the touring market. Even when a machine offers modern engineering and long-distance comfort, the feel of the ride still matters more than numbers on paper. The LT2 arrived as a more relaxed interpretation of the earlier platform. Its bodywork stretches longer across the rear, adding cargo space and improved passenger comfort. From a distance, it clearly aims at the touring crowd. The seating position is lower and calmer than many sport-styled trikes, and the cockpit layout gives the rider a confident view of the road ahead. On smooth highways, the suspension settles into a steady rhythm that many riders appreciate during longer journeys. Still, acceptance has been slower than its designers expected. American touring riders often look for machines shaped by decades of cruiser heritage. The LT2 delivers stability and precision, yet some riders describe the ride as slightly removed from the raw mechanical feel they associate with traditional touring machines. That difference keeps interest alive while slowing the final decision. Power comes from a BMW inline 4, producing about 160 horsepower from 2,000 cubic centimeters and roughly 130 pound-feet of torque, dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, independent double wishbone suspension, about 1,200 pounds dry weight. Further down the list appears a Trike built around unmistakable American cruiser tradition. If you're enjoying this breakdown of trikes dealers are struggling to sell, take a second to like the video and subscribe for more real motorcycle insights. And share your experience in the comments. Many riders here have decades on the road and their perspective matters. Number 12. Harley-Davidson Freewheeler. Across many American highways, riders who have spent decades balancing two wheels eventually begin looking for something steadier without giving up the feeling of a big cruiser. Three wheels offer that promise. Stability improves, confidence grows at low speeds, and long touring days become easier on aging knees and hips. That simple idea explains why trikes have gained attention among riders, who still want to travel but prefer a little extra security beneath them. Some machines approach that goal with futuristic styling and unfamiliar layouts. Others follow a simpler path by staying close to the traditional cruiser formula that riders already understand. The freewheeler clearly belongs to that second philosophy. Its stance remains low and muscular, with wide rear fenders and exposed mechanical lines that echo classic American touring machines. Riders stepping onto the saddle immediately recognize the familiar riding posture and relaxed handlebar reach. That sense of familiarity is one reason many riders respect the freewheeler, even when they do not ultimately purchase one. It preserves the look and rumble associated with traditional Harley touring culture while adding the stability of a third wheel. Yet the same stripped-down character that appeals to purists sometimes causes hesitation among buyers who expect more touring equipment at this price level. Power comes from the Milwaukee 8 114 engine, producing about 94 horsepower from 1,868 cubic centimeters and 121 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks, dual rear shocks. A fully equipped touring trike soon appears that approaches the same idea from a far more luxurious direction. And if you want to get the most out of a bike, check the description for the gear and accessories I'd start with. Number 11. Harley-Davidson Triglide Ultra. Long highways across America have always favored machines built for distance, comfort, and steady power. Riders who have spent decades crossing state lines often reach a moment where balance at slow speeds matters just as much as horsepower. Three wheels answer that concern without asking riders to give up the touring lifestyle they have known for years. Among factory-built touring trikes, one machine has long stood as a symbol of that transition from two wheels to something more stable. The Triglide Ultra carries the familiar silhouette of a full touring motorcycle, complete with a large rear trunk and broad fairing that shields the rider from long hours of wind. Riders who climb aboard immediately notice how closely the seating position resembles traditional touring machines. The handlebars fall naturally to hand, the seat supports the lower back, and the wide stance adds reassuring stability at parking lot speeds. That familiar layout explains why the Triglide Ultra has earned respect among riders who value comfort above all else. It delivers the presence and road authority expected from a long-distance cruiser while reducing the strain of balancing a heavy motorcycle at slow speeds. Even so, its size and price sometimes lead riders to pause and weigh their options carefully before committing. Power comes from the Milwaukee 8 114 engine, producing about 94 horsepower from 1,868 cubic centimeters and 121 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks, rear swing arm, dual shocks. Elsewhere in the lineup, another factory trike blends aggressive touring style with the same three-wheel foundation. Number 10. Harley-Davidson Road Glide. 3. Long stretches of interstate have always belonged to machines built for distance and authority. Riders who spend real miles in the saddle know that wind protection, steady handling, and a strong engine make the difference between a short ride and an all-day journey. Over the years, one particular fairing design became a symbol of that highway confidence, instantly recognizable even from a distance. The Road Glide 3 carries that same unmistakable silhouette into the world of three wheels. Its frame stretches low and wide, giving the machine a planted stance that feels reassuring as soon as the rider settles into the seat. Out on open pavement, the large front fairing pushes wind aside, creating a calmer pocket of air that long-distance riders appreciate. The riding position remains relaxed, allowing hours in the saddle without forcing the shoulders or wrists into awkward angles. Many riders approach the road Glide 3 expecting the same touring personality that made its two-wheel counterpart famous. In many ways, it delivers exactly that. Stability remains strong during long highway stretches, and the broad rear stance keeps the machine steady when creeping through parking lots or crowded rally grounds. Still, its size and price lead some buyers to pause before making a decision. Power comes from the Milwaukee 8-114 engine, producing about 94 horsepower from 1868, cubic centimeters and 121 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, inverted forks, rear swing-arm suspension. Higher in the lineup sits a Trike that approaches touring luxury from an even more exclusive angle. Number 9. Harley-Davidson 𝐶𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 triglide. Certain machines inside a showroom instantly signal that they belong to a different tier of craftsmanship. Deep paint, polished finishes, and carefully detailed trim give them a presence that separates them from standard touring models. Riders who have spent decades around American motorcycles recognize that appearance immediately. It represents the idea that a motorcycle can be more than transportation. It can be a statement about pride, heritage, and the satisfaction of owning something built with extra care. The 𝐶𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 triglide stands firmly in that category. Its design follows the familiar touring trike layout, yet the finishing touches elevate the machine beyond the ordinary. Rich paint schemes stretch across the wide rear fenders, while subtle chrome accents highlight the large bodywork. Riders settling into the saddle notice that the cockpit feels deliberate and refined, with controls placed where experienced touring riders expect them. On long stretches of highway, the machine carries itself with calm confidence, holding a steady line even when crosswinds sweep across open pavement. That level of craftsmanship attracts attention whenever the triglide appears at rallies or roadside stops. Still, admiration does not always translate into ownership. The premium reputation that defines the 𝐶𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 line also places the machine in a price range where riders begin comparing alternatives before committing. Power comes from the Milwaukee 8-117 engine, producing about 105 horsepower from 1,923 cubic centimeters and roughly 130 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks, premium rear shocks. Far from American luxury touring, another Trike represents engineering excess taken to remarkable extremes. Number 8. 𝐵𝒐𝒄 𝑽𝒊𝒅𝒆𝒐𝒔 Trike. Some motorcycles are built to cruise highways quietly, while others exist purely to prove a point about American excess. Few machines represent that spirit better than the massive three-wheeler known for carrying an automobile heart beneath its bodywork. Riders walking past it at a rally usually stop mid-sentence, because the proportions alone tell you something unusual sits under the tank. Long, wide, and unapologetically mechanical, it feels closer to a hot rod than a traditional touring machine. The V8 Trike built its reputation on that outrageous idea. Instead of relying on a typical motorcycle engine, the machine embraces raw automotive power. The result is a machine that does not simply accelerate. It surges forward with a deep mechanical force that riders feel through the seat and handlebars. Rolling onto an open highway with that much engine in front changes the experience of touring entirely. Every throttle movement reminds the rider that this machine was never meant to follow ordinary expectations. Even experienced riders who have spent decades around large touring bikes admit that the machine carries a different personality. It demands respect the moment the ignition turns and the engine settles into a deep rumble. That presence makes it unforgettable at shows and rallies. Yet the same bold design can narrow the group of riders willing to bring one home. Power comes from a Chevrolet LS3 V8, producing roughly 430 horsepower, from 6,162 cubic centimeters and about 424 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks. Far across the touring world, another three-wheeled machine tells a quieter story rooted in long-distance comfort. Number 7. Lehman Monarch 2LLS. Long before factory trikes filled dealership floors, riders who wanted three wheels had to trust specialized builders. Those craftsmen understood touring riders who needed stability without sacrificing the long highway comfort they were used to. Their work turned familiar touring motorcycles into wide, confident machines built for riders who planned to keep crossing state lines well into their later riding years. One of the most recognized names from that era built a reputation quietly over decades of road miles. The Monarch 2LLS followed a simple philosophy: keep the heart of a proven touring motorcycle while adding a rear platform that feels planted and predictable. Riders immediately notice how natural the transition feels, with a relaxed position and wide rear stance, providing balance through slow corners. Owners often describe the experience as a continuation of their touring life, preserving the calm, highway rhythm trusted for decades. Power comes from a Honda Goldwing Flat 6, producing about 118 horsepower, from 1,832 cubic centimeters, and roughly 125 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks. Another conversion builder approached three-wheel touring from a completely different direction. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to Motorcycle Heads. This channel is built for riders who care about real machines, real history, and the truth behind the motorcycle market. More deep breakdowns like this are coming soon. Number 6. Motor Trike RZR. For many riders, the idea of adding a third wheel does not mean giving up style or personality. Stability matters, but so does the feeling of sitting on something that still looks aggressive and purposeful. That balance between confidence and attitude explains why certain conversion trikes draw attention long before anyone studies the engineering beneath them. The RZR approaches three-wheel riding with a design leaning toward performance, inspired cruising rather than traditional touring comfort. Wide rear fenders stretch low across the back, giving the machine a planted stance that signals strength. The bodywork flows smoothly from the original motorcycle frame into the rear conversion platform, appearing deliberate rather than modified. Out on open pavement, the ride feels direct and controlled, with predictable steering and rear suspension that absorbs rough pavement while preserving the original motorcycle's personality and stability. Power varies by donor motorcycle, commonly a Harley touring engine, producing roughly 94 horsepower from 1,868 cubic centimeters and about 121 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, independent rear suspension. Elsewhere in the touring world, another three-wheel platform focuses almost entirely on comfort and long-distance travel. Number 5. Roadsmith HTS 1800. Comfort on long American highways has always been a serious priority for riders who measure trips in states rather than miles. Machines built for that kind of distance must deliver more than power. They need stability, generous seating, and the kind of ride quality that keeps a rider relaxed, even after several hours behind the bars. Some trikes became respected precisely because they focused on those fundamentals without chasing unnecessary flash. The HTS 1800 earned recognition among touring riders who wanted the trusted foundation of a long-distance motorcycle combined with the added confidence of three wheels. Its design builds around a touring platform already known for smooth highway manners. Once converted, the machine keeps that calm personality while adding a wider rear stance that improves balance at low speeds and during slow parking lot maneuvers. Owners often describe the ride as reassuring rather than dramatic. rolling onto a highway feels steady, with the rear suspension soaking up pavement imperfections, while the front end tracks cleanly through long curves. That calm behavior becomes especially valuable during extended travel days, when fatigue can make heavy motorcycles feel more demanding. Power comes from a Honda Goldwing Flat 6, producing about 125 horsepower from 1,832 cubic centimeters and around 125 pound-feet of torque, dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, independent rear suspension. Another conversion builder soon approached three-wheel design with a far more aggressive personality. Number 4. California Sidecar Viper. For riders who have spent decades on the road, stability eventually becomes just as important as horsepower. Long rides, changing balance, and the simple desire to keep riding year after year push many veterans toward machines that feel planted and predictable. That shift in priorities created a market for trike builders who understood how to preserve the comfort of a touring motorcycle while adding the security of a third wheel. The Viper developed its reputation in exactly that space. Built around one of the most trusted long-distance touring platforms ever produced, the design focuses on balance and refinement rather than visual drama. Wide rear fenders flow smoothly into the rear cargo section, creating a shape that feels substantial without looking oversized. Riders climbing into the seat immediately recognize the familiar touring posture they have trusted for thousands of miles. Out on open highways, the machine delivers a calm, composed ride that suits long-distance travel. The wide rear stance provides reassuring stability when pulling away from stops or easing through slow traffic. Once moving at highway speed, the suspension works quietly beneath the chassis, smoothing out pavement imperfections while the front end tracks steadily through long, sweeping curves. Power usually comes from a Honda Goldwing Flat 6 producing about 118 horsepower from 1,832 cubic centimeters and around 125 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, independent rear suspension. Far across the Atlantic, a European machine takes the three-wheel concept in a far more aggressive direction. Number 3. Boom Trike's Fighter X11. Some three-wheel machines look calm and practical, built mainly for stability and comfort. Others arrive with a completely different attitude, shaped more like street fighters than traditional touring bikes. Wide rear tires, low seating positions, and sharp body lines instantly signal that these machines belong to a different category of riding. Riders who walk around them quickly understand that the goal is not quiet highway travel. The goal is presence. The Fighter 11 carries exactly that personality. Its design places the rider low between two massive rear wheels, creating a stance that feels closer to a performance car than a touring motorcycle. Long front forks stretch forward while the rear bodywork spreads wide across the pavement. Even standing still, the machine appears tense and ready to launch forward. Riders settling into the seat notice how different the riding posture feels compared with traditional touring trikes. Instead of sitting upright, the rider leans slightly back, with legs extended forward. The view over the handlebars stretches low across the road ahead, creating the sensation of riding inside the machine rather than on top of it. When the engine responds to the throttle, the experience feels direct and mechanical. Power comes from a Kawasaki Inline 4, producing about 178 horsepower, from 1,199 cubic centimeters and roughly 99 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, telescopic forks, independent rear suspension. Another machine takes the three-wheel idea even further toward raw performance. Number 2. Campagna 𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 �13R. Every so often a machine appears that refuses to follow traditional motorcycle design. It does not try to imitate a cruiser or a touring platform. Instead, it takes the idea of three wheels and reshapes it into something closer to a performance vehicle than a conventional motorcycle. Riders seeing it for the first time often pause and walk around it slowly. because the shape alone suggests a completely different riding experience. The 𝑉13𝒉 belongs firmly in that category. The cockpit places the rider low between two widely spaced front wheels, while the rear wheel sits directly behind the seat like a powerful anchor. This unusual layout changes how the machine behaves on the road. Instead of leaning into turns like a typical motorcycle, the rider guides the machine through corners with a steering feel that resembles a lightweight sports car. Sliding into the seat feels more like entering a cockpit than mounting a bike. The steering wheel style handlebars, the low windshield, and the open view ahead give the rider a sense of being part of the machine's structure. When the engine responds to the throttle, the acceleration arrives quickly and without hesitation, creating a sensation that many riders describe as raw and mechanical. Power comes from the Harley Revolution 5 twin, producing about 125 horsepower, from 1,250 cubic centimeters, and roughly 95 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes with anti-lock braking system, double wishbone suspension, rear monoshock. One final machine pushes this idea of three-wheel performance even further. Number 1. Campagna T-Rex 16S. Every generation of riders eventually sees a machine that completely rewrites expectations about what three wheels can do. Instead of focusing on relaxed cruising or touring comfort, some designs chase pure mechanical excitement, low bodywork, exposed suspension pieces, and a cockpit that feels closer to a race machine than a motorcycle create an experience that immediately grabs attention from anyone walking past it. The T-Rex 16S belongs squarely in that category. Sitting inside the cockpit feels dramatically different from climbing onto a traditional trike. The rider drops into a narrow seat surrounded by structural tubing, with the steering controls placed forward and the road stretching low across the horizon. The wide front stance and single rear wheel give the machine a shape that resembles a compact race vehicle rather than a touring motorcycle. Out on open pavement, the personality becomes even clearer. Acceleration arrives quickly and sharply, pushing the rider back into the seat, while the chassis stays planted firmly between the two front wheels. Steering feels direct and precise, allowing the machine to carve through sweeping curves with confidence that often surprises many first-time riders. The low stance and wide front track create stability, giving the rider a strong sense of control when the road begins to twist ahead. Power comes from a Kawasaki Inline 4, producing about 197 horsepower from 1,441 cubic centimeters, and roughly 113 pound-feet of torque. Dual front disc brakes, anti-lock braking system, double wishbone suspension, rear monoshock. And there you have it. 14 Trike motorcycles dealers just can't seem to move, even after massive price drops. Some are bargains waiting for the right rider, while others remind us that even a great machine needs the right audience. Which trike surprised you the most, or do you have your own story about scoring a deal? Drop it in the comments below. I want to hear your experiences. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another insider. Look at the bikes the dealers don't want you to see.